So, since becoming a teacher, especially when I first started 10 years ago when I was in my 20s, I will occasionally have guys say to me things like, "Oh, those kids are not paying attention in your class," or "If you were my English teacher," just things along those lines. One, it's completely inappropriate and gross, disrespectful. Two, what is a person even supposed to say to that? Like, really, what am I supposed to say? Well, today's teaching story is an example of exactly what I think these guys who make these comments are talking about, and I'm going to share the story with you. I'm going to tell you how I handled it, and I'm going to ask you if you think the way I handled it was effective. So let's just jump into it. Let me introduce myself in case you're new here. My name is Alexa Borota. I'm a high school English teacher. I also taught middle school language arts for 8 years. If you enjoy real teaching stories and you want to hear more, check out my playlist. Make sure you subscribe so that you're notified whenever a new one posts. I post videos every Sunday. In addition to that, I also post teaching tips and things like that. Let's go. Great. I just spilled coffee on my mint green pants. If you're new to teaching stories, this is less visual like my other videos, and this is more podcasty, hence the microphone on my neck. So if you're doing something like driving, cleaning, going for a walk, feel free to just listen to this because it's just me sitting here drinking coffee on a soccer ball. I'm just telling you a story. Oh my gosh, I'm getting coffee everywhere because I talk with my hands. So here's what happened. Without me providing too much context, because I want the identity of these students to remain private. Okay, this is a story about two high school boys who were students of mine. So I'm in the hallway. It's during my prep period. I'm just walking, right? I'm walking and I run into one of my students and we're chit-chatting and we're kind of walking together. We're heading in the same direction. Everything's fine, just a real standard day, you know? Well, he sees one of his good friends and immediately starts laughing, and suddenly, you know, a student's one way when they're with you, and then they see a good friend of theirs, and then you see another side of them. Happens all the time. He's cracking up with his friend. They are both students of mine in my class at this time, and they're good friends. So he's laughing, and he's going, "Show her, show her, show her, show her." And the other student is going, "No, no," and he's cracking up. They're both laughing, so I mean, part of me really didn't care because I see so much dumb humor in one day, some silly TikToks. So I'm going, "Show me, show me, show me." And I remember saying, "You have 5 seconds to show me," because they just couldn't stop laughing. Okay, let me name these students. The one I was walking with, let's call him A. And his buddy, let's call the buddy B. All right, so B takes out his phone and he's so hesitant, like he doesn't want to. And I was to the point where I almost didn't even care to see it anymore. But yeah, okay, so he shows me, he pulls up a picture. This picture is on his phone and it's practically in my hands. And I'm going to say that I look at this picture for about 10 seconds before I push his phone away. The picture that he showed me that they're laughing about was a cartoon or anime. It wasn't anime, it was like a mix between anime and a cartoon. Anime is cartoon, whatever. But they're not. So it's a picture of a white girl. Now, I work in a predominantly Black, Hispanic, just, you know, diverse school district. There are about 3 white students in the whole school. So it's a white girl, big blue eyes, long blonde hair. She's wearing Barbie pink, looking a little provocative. And if I remember correctly, she looked a little busty. Why is he showing me this? And why do they think it's so funny? Why are you putting this white girl with blonde hair, blue eyes? Kind of doesn't look like me, but has certain characteristics. We're white, we're blonde, we have blue eyes. I've been known to wear Barbie pink. Barbie's a thing right now. I think you know where I'm going with this. I feel like I'm beating around a bush here. Like the thing clearly somehow like represented me, but in a very provocative, I'm even going to say bimbo-ish way. And as soon as I saw it, I did not think there was anything funny about it. And they're, all right, now let's skip to A and B, right? Students A and B. They're dying. They're roaring in an empty hallway, okay, because classes are in session. So can you just kind of wrap your head around this awkward situation? I have these 2 grown young adult boys, okay, showing me this picture. I am their teacher. They did more than just laugh in this empty hallway. And I'm just standing there. I'm pretty sure I'm expressionless. I I was pissed. On top of that, student A, even though he knows that I'm upset, they continue to go. They continue to roar on. Yeah, part of me wants to act it out, but I'm not going to act it out. Hopefully I can just tell it right. So student A takes off his student ID, throws it on the hallway floor, and impersonates me. And he does this very exaggerated bend over. And he goes, "Oh, I got it." And he bends over and he picks up the ID. And they're both continuing to just crack up. And I'm just standing there watching, just standing there, expressionless, not saying a word. Student A just continues to do it. He picks up his ID, he throws it again. He does this elaborate, exaggerated bend over. I got it, gets it. And it goes on until I decide to walk away. And when I walked away, they are continuing to just laugh behind me. And there are only about 10 minutes left in the school day. It took every ounce of patience and energy and every fiber of my being not to turn around and lash out. And when I say lash out, I mean yell. We've all been there, right? Where we've kind of lost it a little bit and we always say that we're not going to yell, but then we start yelling. I could have yelled and it could have been a moment that initiated like every teacher in that hallway coming out of the room to see if Miss B was okay, because that's how mad I was. Without me just continuing to elaborate on how that felt and what I wanted to say, I'm going to talk to you about what I did. Now, something tells me that an outsider might think, oh, write them up. They need to talk to a disciplinarian. Maybe they need to see a counselor. Go, call home, all those things. I have experienced students like this on and off, really not that many, but I have experienced a few. And here's what I've learned. If you don't handle it yourself, it just doesn't get handled the right way. When you take it and give it to somebody else, you're giving them the power to handle it how they want to handle it. And I never quite agree on how these situations have been handled. And the reason I don't agree with them is because I don't actually think the student understands, even if they've been reprimanded, even if somebody else has had a heart-to-heart with them, still, I just don't think that it really sinks in how they make their teacher or a female feel when they talk to them like that. And I just don't think that anybody can talk to them or do things in a better fashion than the teacher themselves. My style in all areas of my life is, if there's a problem, if there's an issue, to just go to it head on, straight on. But in many cases, do so in a way that is surprising or shocking to the person I have an issue with. That way, it remains memorable. And if I've been offended, I need to get something out of it. And if that's something that I get out of it is your surprise or your shock, I'll do it. Let's say a student gets an in-school or an out-of-school suspension. Okay, what about after that? How does that stop them from doing it again? I'm not just talking about in school. I mean in general. I mean just in life. What is that really teaching them? I just don't even agree with it. If you're watching, you can say hello to my son Cooper. You're a little close.
To my Chihuahua bear.
That's right, that's my boy. So this happened on a Friday. I wait for the weekend to pass, just so that I could cool down, figure out, what I want to do and how I want to go about it rationally. So here's what happened. That Monday, I come to school and I'm like, nobody's going to talk to them before I talk to them. And I'm going to talk to them one-on-one. And I'm going to make them feel a little uncomfortable. Not in like a threatening way, but just uncomfortable. Sometimes in order to get a point across, what you need to do is to create a feeling. And I'm not talking about a feeling of fear. I'm talking about a feeling of being uncomfortable. So that's what I was going for. So one of my students, student A, the one who I was originally walking with, and then he got sidetracked when he saw his friend. I went to one of his classes and I pulled him out. Let's just say that when I pulled him out, I made him feel as though he were in a very serious situation. We take about a 1 to 2 minute walk to where it is that I want to go, which is a big open space. And I sit him down I'll try to give you the big points. I asked him if he knew why he was sitting there, and he said he didn't. He had no idea. He started acting like it was about maybe his grades or things like that. When I told him what it was about, he kind of tried to make me feel like I was crazy, that it wasn't that big of a deal. He insisted that the cartoon was funny because it looked so much like me. What in the picture was me? Well, you know, she was white with blonde hair and blue eyes. How is that funny? You want to talk about reenactments? Here's something I'll share with you. There were 2 reenactments I did. They're laughing, and I did a full-blown, step-by-step reenactment of what he demonstrated I look like in that hallway. I pretended to throw the idea. I did the lean down. I did it. And I'm like, you did this over and over and over again to me in the hallway when I clearly was not happy with it. He said he didn't remember. He did it probably at least at minimum 3 times, probably 4 or 5. But he didn't remember doing it. I said even though, I mean, we really do have cameras, but I never checked anything. But I did say to him, you know, I referred to the camera footage, and I swear, he goes, we have cameras in our hallway? How do you not know that we don't have cameras in our hallway? They're in every... The expression on his face completely changed when he realized that we had cameras. And he stuck to his story that he didn't remember the bend over, that repeated bend over. Anyway, so I said everything that I had to say from beginning to end. Never once did he make eye contact with me. Never once did we reach a place where I felt like he could be honest and apologetic. Now, did he apologize? He sure did. He apologized, but he didn't know what he was apologizing for because he owned up to nothing. He didn't own up to a single thing. He was just like, it wasn't on my phone and I don't remember doing that. That was him being defensive. All right, now let me skip to the other student. The other student, student B, the one who had the picture on his phone, he was out of school that Monday. I couldn't let it go. I knew that student A was going to text or call student B. So therefore that shock and that surprise effect, I was never going to have it. And that was important to me. So I thought, well, I'm going to surprise him in another way with a phone call home. And I'm going to be the one, not some administrator or some counselor or some disciplinarian. Like I'm going to be the one to tell his parents or guardians exactly what happened. And so I called. I'm talking to mom and dad on a 3-way call. And dad's not really saying much. Doesn't mean he, didn't have his feelings, but he's not really saying much. Mama Bear, she was just making a lot of sound effects. Okay, like, but wasn't really saying much. And that's fine. But I tell them the whole story, and I made sure to say to them, please look at this picture for yourself because it is on your son's phone. And if he tells you he deleted it, I'm like, please don't believe him. Like, go into his deleted photos, whatever. I just kind of said, hey, like I was caught up in my feelings. Certain parts that were exaggerated in my head. I said, double check me, look at it for yourself. But also as you're looking at it, just remember, he showed this to his teacher in the hallway, cracking up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I let her know how I felt about that. And I let her know that I'd be talking to her son when he comes back. And it kind of ended there, and I'm going to end it there. There were no write-ups. I didn't talk to a disciplinarian, didn't talk to a counselor. From this moment on, the only thing I did was I had continuous conversations with these 2 students. What do you think? Did I handle it the right way? Should I have done something else? I don't know about your school. I know a lot of schools are a lot like what I'm about to say. This is not a my school thing. This is where schools are getting at today type thing. But when we write students up, it doesn't even automatically mean suspension or things like that. In my years, I can't tell you how many times I've written a student up and I would have good faith that admin, disciplinarians, that they would put the right motions in place and handle the situation. And in their minds, I'm sure they did. But from my perspective, they didn't handle it the right way. And I just constantly think I should have just handled it myself. That is what I find myself doing. Just handling it myself. I can't tell you how many times they'll take a student and I'm wondering why I'm not even part of the conversation. I'm like, this is my issue with a student. Why am I not even part of the conversation? You're just going off my little memo that I submitted when I wrote them up. And it's not to put administrators down either. When you have that many behavioral issues, you can't put everything you want into motion because there's just not enough time in the day. So I just find that handling it on your own to an extent is oftentimes the best option. And that's what I did here. There's always a song and dance you do. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. When you were in high school, I guarantee you, or middle school, or just anytime, I guarantee you that you did something stupid and you don't know why you did it, or looking back, you know why you did it and you realize it was the wrong thing. But were you a bad kid? Probably not. You weren't bad. You just did something stupid or you said something stupid. Well, that's oftentimes how I see my students. Sometimes in order for them to move forward, they have to do something stupid, take a couple steps back to get ahead. And that's kind of how I see the situation. I really believe that they're not going to repeat this with somebody else. I can't say just yet to a female, he might need a few more lessons, but at least to a teacher, I don't think he's going to do it again. It doesn't end with hostility and all of that. It has a good ending. And that's it. That's my story. Just another day in the life of being a teacher. How would you have handled that? I love hearing other teacher stories, hence me sharing mine.